Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Kato. So as political sparks are flying in Warsaw this week as President Karol Nawrocki and National Bank Chief Adam Glapiński unveil a controversial alternative to the EU's defence loan, the Brussels offering of the SAFE loan, a low-interest, long-maturity facility to bolster European defence, Nawrocki is proposing a homegrown, safe 0% alternative. His plan, an interest-free lifeline reportedly backed by Poland's massive gold reserves. The proposal has ignited a firestorm of debate over its legal feasibility and economic common sense. Joining us to unpack the mechanics and the risks of this gold-baked strategy is former finance minister and professor of economics at Kato-Kmieć University, Grzegorz Kołodko. Hello, and thank you so much for being with us today. So, I'd like to begin by following this announcement from the president. So as the initial dust settles, following the press conference from President Karol Nawrocki and the National Bank of Poland Chief Adam Glapiński, experts like yourself are scrutinizing this proposal of safe 0%. What do you think of this proposal that allegedly is interest-free and it gives Poland full independence? What are your thoughts on this?
There is something in this concept. Some time ago, over 3 months ago, I was invited by President Nawrocki, who is very much concerned, me too, about the deteriorating situation of the Polish public finance. And some time ago, I have published a paper pointing to the idea that there may be some alternative for financing a part of our defense spending, which will not lead to such fast growing fiscal deficit and public debt. So my idea was to take a look what is the level, the value of the currency reserves, which are managed by independent from the president, from the government, from the parliament, central bank, but this is our money. The money belongs to the Polish people, but it is being administered by the central bank, and at the same time, the government has not enough money to cover the defense is not only expenses, not only for the defense. So my idea, which I suggested to President, that if there is a chance for finding a consensus between president and government and the parliamentary majority and the central bank, we may use part of these reserves to co-finance the budget spending without making such big pressure within the public finance. So it was over 3 months ago. What was going on in between, I don't know. And then we have this press conference briefing a couple of days ago. And I think it is a very good thing that the president was together with the governor of the central bank. That means that there is some kind of understanding between them. And then as far as the details are concerned, to which you have referred, there is more question marks than answers. One idea is to sell a part of the reserves which are being held in gold. Now we have over 550 tons of gold. It is about 30%, almost 30% of the currency reserves of Poland, which are definitely much bigger than it is necessary for the case of financial security, are kept in the gold. So one scenario is to sell part of this gold at the current price, which is much higher than it was a year or 2 years ago for different reasons. And then, according to the Polish law, 95% of the profits of the central bank is by law transferred to the state budget. That is what is now, that is my reading also, my understanding, the proposition of the governor of the central bank, Professor Glapiński. My idea was slightly different. Simply, we can just take part of these reserves from central bank and to find the legal way, following the law, for the expenses of the government, of which a growing part are military defense expenses. It's already almost 5% of GDP. This is important to know that Poland expenses for defense relative to GDP, to our national income, are the highest among the NATO members. Nobody spends as much as we, 5% of our national income. And lion's share of the spending is just from financed by deficit, by expanding the public debt. So the idea is to find a way between government, majority in the parliament, prime minister, president, and the central bank to work out the technical and legal details of this alternative. As of today, I don't see very much chance for this compromise.
You don't think that this is possible?
I think it is possible.
It is possible, okay.
It is possible from economic viewpoint. It is justified from economic viewpoint. It is tricky from legal viewpoint, and we have to observe, we have to follow the law. But for that reason, I'm saying maybe we do need a special law to be adopted by the parliament and signed by the president. And for that reason, they have to work together. But I don't think it is feasible, it is possible as of Friday evening because of the political barrier. Simply, there is not an understanding. I don't think there is the goodwill between the both sides of the stack of the war. There is one concept which is being supported by the government. There is the alternative not work out yet in each detail by the president, jointly with the governor of the central bank. But in Poland, the political fight between the government and the opposition and between government and president does continue. And in this atmosphere, in this political atmosphere, to come to the sensible, common sense-based economic solution, it's quite difficult. Some people say impossible.
But
I know that it is possible, but I doubt it will happen.
It's exactly, you say that it is possible, and keeping in mind that really Poland needs to prioritize its defense strategy. Surely that we should, the political parties, the government, the president's office, everyone should really put their political differences aside and make sure that the best thing for Poland actually takes place.
Not really. Actually, my idea was, I don't share this viewpoint. My point is that we spend too much on military build-up, on defense, that if we would just follow the commitment and the law that we have to spend not less than 3% of GDP, it would be sufficient, presuming that there is the proper management of this money which we devote to defense. But there is already the political decision and actually political consensus. Here I'm in minority that we have to spend 5% of GDP because of geopolitical situation, etc.
Sure.
Okay, I said to President, if that is the fact, this is my proposition, take 3% of GDP from the budget, an additional 2 points for subsequent 3 years, not from the budget, which is in deep deficit, but take apart this money equivalent of 2% of GDP from the reserves of the central bank, which
And this is what I want to ask
excessive.
you about. What are the arguments in favor of actually using some of those gold reserves, perhaps selling those gold reserves?
It can be a sale of the gold, it can be another operation because, as I said, about close to 30% of the reserves is kept in the gold, so it can be a realization of the profit of the gold, which was bought at much lower price than it could be sold. So as far as the financial engineering is concerned, they are different propositions here, but still they do need a political consensus to make it possible politically and legal from the regulation viewpoint. But the question is, I'm an economist. I was 4 times Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and I know how difficult it is to make the ends met. So for that reason is, which way is more efficient? What is cheaper? If we want to have spent as much as 5% of our GDP on defense, which again I think is excessive, but these people which decide, they think it is justified, make it in the most economic way. Simply, you understand it, each housewife understands it, that if you want to get something, you buy it at the cheapest possible way, the quantity and the quality. So the question is, what is cheaper? This European Union promoted SAFE, which can transfer to Poland in the next couple of years, 5 years, I think, close to 44 billion euro. Yes, at the interest rate lower than the market interest rate. It is competitive with the open market operation, or to find an alternative. The president and his staff calls this proposition, a rough proposition they have presented, zero, save 0%, because this technique we are talking about, taking a part of the gold or another part of the reserves, is not unburdened in the interest rate. So it is more efficient, but to move forward, it must be accepted also by the government. And the government is in favor of the concept, and president is against. And as of today, it looks rather that neither of these two concepts will be put in motion.
Do you think that the defense industry can become an engine for the growth of the Polish economy?
No, absolutely not. I think that if there is money, it is much better to spend the money for protection of the natural environment, for the transformation to the renewable energy sources, and then the so-called multiplier, economic multiplier, works the same way as it is working in military build-up, but the social results are better. Instead of bigger, stronger army, we will have a cleaner environment.
What about exporting those weapons that Poland could produce?
Well, again, if we are competitive and we can produce some weapons and to get a good business on that, why not? But of course, there's also a moral aspect. Who is buying this weapon and for what? The question is to what market the weapons go. I'm not very much in, military build-up, in military spiral. Currently, United States is leading the world. 38% of the international trade of weapons, this is made in USA. And Poland, my country, is #1 importer of American-made weapons among 27 members of the European Union. So we do import much more of our equipment for our army than we are able to export. And if there is the money for investment, we still have plenty of opportunities to invest in infrastructure, in other competitive industries, and I don't see any rationale for giving the priority to defense, military industry or defense policy. But everything we are talking about is based on the assumptions. If you presume that an enemy is getting ready to invade Poland, yes, then we spend not enough for military build-up. But I don't buy this argument. Nobody is going to attack Poland, and for that reason, we have to work on the diplomatic channel, through the political channel, not to raise our military, because everybody else is raising their military, and we are involved in the world, in the military spiral, which doesn't make the world any much safer. Do you think that we are safer now than a year or two ago? No, the world is less safe because the nations are spending more and more on military build-up, and then there is not enough money for investment in human capital, in healthcare, education, culture, R&D. We did have in Europe a big chance. Almost 2 years ago, there was presented to the European Commission report of former Prime Minister Mario Draghi. Draghi report pointed to the fact that European Union is losing the competitive fight with the United States and with China. And Draghi report suggested that we, the European Union, people should invest more in R&D, integrate our capital markets to stay the competitiveness of both mighty countries, US and China. And instead of going in this direction, we have developed this SAFE program, and now European Union is borrowing the money to provide the credits to countries which are keen to take this credit. This is this European SAFE, and Polish government is very much in favor of this, of participating in this program. But Polish president is very critical, if not directly against. I'm not saying who is right here or wrong. I'm just suggesting what is more efficient way. If you can get something, if you want a new nice dress, you are looking where you can get this quality for the lowest possible price. And from this perspective, this so-called Polish SAFE, 0%, if it will be work in the details as it's supposed to be, as I have suggested,
Okay.
is more competitive. But one more time, it is economically justified, financially possible, but politically almost impossible.
Okay. Professor Grzegorz Kołodko, former finance minister of Poland, deputy prime minister of Poland, and professor of economics at Glapiński University. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you. And that's a wrap for World Talks here on TVP World. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for much more on our channel. Goodbye.